That intro never works. 1 second, folks. I gotta play the intro. There's no point. There it goes. What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences. And more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends. Join us tonight because we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I'm Ryan Dembroski, and this is SuperAero Live. What is up, SuperAero Squadron? Thanks for bearing with me I gotta call the software people, get that intro autoplay thing worked out. Anyway, you don't care about that. You're here for some hangar flying tonight. And man, we got a lot of people in the chat tonight. I'm like scrolling through. Look at all these awesome people here. We got Steph, who you're about to meet in a second, in the chat. Connie, welcome back. Firefighter727, great to have you, buddy. Who else we got here? Gary Smith, thanks for coming back again this week. Mr. Flight Chops himself is in the chat. Everyone say hi to him. If you don't know who he is, you should probably check out his stuff. Michael Dornboss, I'm going to say it every time. First ever guest on this show, coming back to represent. Appreciate it, buddy. And who's up? Ryan Krueger, Patreon supporter supreme. A lot of support from that guy. Thanks for showing up, Ryan. Who else? Oh, our good friend 782 Papa, home builder in the chat. Great to see ya. Becky Hayes? I don't know how to pronounce it, but welcome. Looking forward to the chat as well. Man, we got so many people in this week. Firefighter says he hopes that tones don't drop between now and the end. Well, you got an hour, so we'll knock on some wood. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for being here. And real quick, before I introduce our guests that I already introduced, I just want to say thanks for watching. If you like what we're doing at SuperAero Live during the lockdown, pandemic, whatever, be sure to subscribe, like, comment. You know the drill. And I actually pulled some stats, and I found out that half the people that watch this show are not subscribers. And that's something you can do for free. And it really helps me out. So you should check it out. I check those stats every day. And then, obviously, Patreon is the thing. We had a couple new Patreon supporters after last week's show. Super pumped to have you. They're going to be getting, I think most people got this cool SuperAero patch coming to them. But there's also, like, this epic Squadron member one. And some other cool stuff you can get. Really goes a long way. I mean, I'm literally broadcasting from my basement. And everything you can throw in helps me bring awesome guests like I'm about to introduce into the show and make it just better. So I am just going to stop talking for a second. I want to introduce you all to my new best friend. I'm going to throw her on the camera here. It's my new best friend, Steph. Steph from somewhere on the West Coast. Steph Stricklen, everybody.
Yay! Yeah. Location. Portland, Oregon is where I'm joining you from. And it's Becky Heisey. Becky Hayes. So I'm like,
I don't know.
We also have Jen Bentley in the chat as well. I love her. So it's really nice to see my friends and my, folks who I've leaned on heavily this past week to like jump in the chat as well. So I am doing part of what you like to do, which is also just check out the chat in real time. So we'll see how it goes. Should be fun.
There we go. Yeah. And everyone, a big thing I would like to encourage you to do is if you got questions for Steph, Dan says, but it's not your parents' basement. That's true. I am paying the mortgage on this basement. Guys, we love the chat. I'm a little nervous tonight. I don't know if you can tell because Steph is like big time Emmy award winning newscaster. And I'm here like, pretending to be a newscaster on this show.
Cut yourself some slack. You're amazing. I was so excited when you asked me, and I needed this. This week of all weeks, I needed this. So I'm here for you, man. I love it.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to maybe we should just cut right to the chase and start talking about airplanes and stuff. But you kind of hinted at it. I mean, you've had a bit of a crappy week, maybe an understatement. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here, even though it's been a rough week.
So this week, the Canadian Snowbirds, a team that is near and dear to my heart, lost one of their members who happens to be one of my dearest friends. So Jen Casey was the public affairs officer, and my sort of partner in crime and my co-conspirator. And I have to pull this up on camera for you guys if you can see it. But she bought me just 2 months ago a signed copy of Stick and Rudder because I am a perpetual student pilot and we were both chasing our pilot's license. And so she's such an amazing soul. And I thought to myself, you know what? If you know her the way I know her, it's like, giddy up, okay? Like, we get this, and let's move onward and upward at any given opportunity and continue to talk about the good and the positive things. So that's why I was so happy when you asked me to be a part of this, because I know that, framed around my love for her and my love for the team, as well as the American teams, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, because my heart bleeds for the red, white, and blue. This was an opportunity for me to focus on something positive in her honor, even though I missed her terribly. So that's, I've flown with the team twice, which is incredibly fortunate on my part, and have had just the best experiences and made some of the best friendships, which I think is like aviation across the board. I don't know if you would agree with that, but I think most people would, that it is a tight-knit community. If it's general aviation, if it's military, if it's air shows, air racing, STOL, whatever it is, you connect to your family and they become just that, your family.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna pull up some. You sent me some photos. I'm gonna pull those up while we chat. Sure. I don't know. I mean, I never had the opportunity to meet her or any of the Snowbirds, but really admired the work that they were doing, and just really like. I don't know, like we were talking on the phone a couple days ago, and I think it's one of those things in aviation that like it's just a really precious thing we have. And when we hear about this stuff, like, because I knew you, I think I texted you and I was like, oh man, like you're probably really good friends. And you're like, yeah, we are really good friends. And so there's like this super tight knit community. I've got my circle, they're in the chat. You've got your circle that's in the chat. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of speechless about it. I obviously we'll see what we learned from it. We don't want to speculate today, but just thanks for being here. And I don't know what he's not in the chat today, but a friend of mine, like when we hear about stuff like this, he always says like cleared west, climb unrestricted, which like brings a tear to my eye. So I'm just gonna have a little. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have a little drink.
This is red wine. This is Jen's drink, so we'll do this toast to Jen. Buddy of mine, a Red Arrow, taught me the coolest phrase, and it's used by North American fighter pilots a little bit differently. But he messaged me yesterday, and he was like, see, I'm not going to cry though. You watch. I do it. I used to do a thing when I was on TV news. I was on TV news for 20 years, and when a really sad story, I only had one breakdown, like completely on the air, where I just could not handle the story.
Sorry,
one of my secrets.
I'm like interrupting you really hard. If you start crying, I'm going to start crying though, so we have to be careful.
I won't. But I push under the desk. I would dig my thumb into the palm of my hand as hard as I could, and that would like take that edge off. So I'm just sitting down here doing this. But listen to this. He said, Steph, he goes, Jen's chilling on the blades. And I go, what does that mean? He goes, means you're up there cruising high, easy on that. And for the North American fighter pilots, because there is a little bit of a difference in the vernacular, the North American fighter pilots, if they're doing some, high alpha type maneuvers, they call it hanging on the blades. But I was like, you know what? Jen would love that she's up there chilling on the blades. So that's what we're going to go with. Look, it is, how lucky am I that I got to meet her and know her, and now I get to live my life for the both of us, particularly when it comes to general aviation, because she was chasing her pilot's license. She spent a week here studying for the Canadian version of the test. And I remember joking with her, I'm like, you have so many hours in a jet. Like, how are you going to transition to a 172? Like, what's that going to look like when you know? So it's a joy, and I'm glad you can see her photos up on the screen. And to Connie in the chat, thank you for being so nice and welcoming me, and to everyone in here as I see this. So it's much appreciated. Your circle is awesome, by the way. They're very friendly.
They're okay. They're okay. Connie's all right. Connie's all right. I mean, this is just, I love, you sent me this photo. It's you with some of the other women on the
boss ladies.
The boss ladies. Like, you have such, that was, I was leading towards, that was like the name of the file is Boss Ladies. Like, you've got this such a cool circle of people, and then separately, like, you've flown with the Snowbirds, so that also is just like, the experience like more than any of the other civilians that I know, right? You've had this experience, this shared experience with them. Like, I think this is you, like, getting some stick time in a Snowbird aircraft.
Yes. So I was flying with FOMO. So for those of you guys who are on Instagram and are familiar with the team, FOMO was sort of the Instagram superstar for the years that he was involved with the team, and it was very personable and is still a very, very, very dear friend of mine. And so when I had the opportunity to go flying with the team, because I flew back with them in 1998 or 1999. I mean, I'm old as dirt. So I flew with them all those years ago. Well, there was no social media. There was no in-cockpit cameras. There was none of that. So here was an opportunity to fly with someone who I admired, respected, and liked as a friend, and then have a chance to have all this video, which someday I hope to show my kid to let her know I'm still cool, because she's going to hit that age where she thinks I'm not.
Well, we're going to get to a video about with your kid, and I don't want to. Yeah. I kind of spoiled it. You got some pretty cool videos. But all of this, I do it because I want to share the passion for aviation, and I want to try to do it in non-aviation terms, because any of you guys in the chat here can, yes, Connie, lady pilots love for sure. And someone, by the way, RVN 782P saying, you're not old, you're experienced. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I think for me, when it comes to sharing general aviation, we do a really good job of talking to ourselves. And sometimes we struggle to break out of that, which is why I try to bridge the gap between what the military does versus the general aviation community. Because as you and I learned last year at Oshkosh, even there's sometimes a little bit of a disconnect. And if I can help put those puzzle pieces together and then seed all the good work that we're all doing out into a broader community, then I'm happy. Like, that's mission accomplished for me. So that's where I kind of tackle this from. That's awesome. So should we explain to people like what you actually do now? Because yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, you have this kind of like crazy job. And I was if it's cool, maybe the easiest way to explain how you've gotten to meet all these amazing people is to show a video that you sent me, which is kind of stupid, like, in a good way.
Awesome. Stupid awesome.
Stupid awesome.
It is stupid awesome.
So I'm gonna play that, and then we'll talk about it in a second. This is I'll tease it just briefly, folks. The name of the file is Thorny Explosions. So let's play that, and we'll be right back.
Thorny, what do you think, man? High five.
This is awesome. This is legit. You guys got to come out and see this.
I can't believe we're here.
The best seat in the house.
Mumble's taking good care of us. What? That's crazy. That's insane. It's unreal. Getting ourselves in position for the wall of fire. Again, Tora taking good care of us today.
That is cool.
That was cool. And that's your job.
Yeah, that's my job. And that is a 30-second synopsis of the live casting that I do. And in that particular day, the percussive shocks of the explosion actually totally knocked my phone, the camera, offline. The camera simply stopped working. It was in black, but I could see that people were still chatting. So I just rolled with it without being able to see what I was shooting or what I was looking at. I was covered in sweat and I mean, and you saw like my enthusiasm in the moment, and I'm able to take, just like I'm doing in this chat, take people's comments and feed them back in real time, and take people into an experience where they wouldn't normally get to go. And in some cases, like, as you well know, with working with me, get to interact with the team, in a way that doesn't usually happen. And then that for me is a home run. Like, how many people get to say they hung out with Thunderbird 3 while he lit pyro after pyro off for Tora, and we did it live on Facebook for the air show I was working for, which I'm 99% positive was Wings Over Houston.
I love that you've done so many. You're like, I'm pretty sure that was Wings Over Houston. So, like,
I was supposed to check and I forgot.
like, Gary Smith says, boy, my job is so boring compared to that. I mean, we all have really, it's like, there's like your job, and then like maybe just above it, like the actual jet teams.
Oh, yeah, that's
like,
pretty cool. That's,
like,
a job
that's pretty cool. So, but could you, like, what's on your business card? Like, what, how do I get this job?
Funny you should say that. Because it is almost impossible to explain. So I spent a year when I quit TV news, and I have a great relationship with my former station. It's the NBC station here in Portland, Oregon. And I love them, and they still have me on. And sometimes I fill in when they need me, but I needed to go explore myself creatively in a field that I was passionate about. And so when I spent the first year doing everything for free and draining the savings account at home to show Airshows what it is. And it was Thunder over Michigan, which gave me my first go. And they're like, come put this into practice. And then after that, it was like, for every air show, I was like, let me just show up once. And they were like, oh, this is amazing. And now I've got this great bank of shows that I love to support, who supported me initially. And so I say my job is livecaster. That's just in the air show world. I also do a lot of liaison work that's behind the scenes. So the stuff you see on camera and the copious amounts of selfies, so many selfies.
So you sent me some selfies.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, I built a career out of selfies, right? But honestly, like 70% of what I do, if not more, is behind the scenes. And then this on-camera stuff represents 30% or less. But the behind the scenes stuff, I don't even know how to put that on a business card. But I also do Comic-Con work, which is I love, and I do technology work for GeekWire as well. So I've got kind of 3 things I'm passionate about. Comic-Cons are amazing. Air shows are my heart. And GeekWire, working for GeekWire has been incredible. I love tech.
So, yeah, and we've talked a little bit about how, and I'm just throwing some, you were joking about selfies. So there was a selfie of you while you were chatting about, for folks listening to the podcast, there was a selfie of you like on the set of the news show. But here's you with a sort of important athlete. Just hanging out.
Good old Michael Phelps. It's cool. No big deal. Big deal.
He's so tall.
Well, tall and like with the exact swimmer's build that we've all seen in the Olympics, but he's the GOAT, right? Like so many medals and so many accomplishments, and generally speaking, pretty media shy, honestly. And you see him, but he always does the really big things. And so I had friends on the Today Show. I was on the Today Show set for that day. And I was like, you know what? I knew, by the way, when I took that photo for KGW, I knew that I was leaving TV news and that was my last Olympics by design. I've covered 7 of them. Wow. And I've gotten to play basketball with Kobe Bryant, and I've done all of these incredible experiences, but it was time for me to move on. And so I was like, I'm going to go for it. The worst that's going to happen is I'm going to tick off his manager, and the best that's going to happen is I'm going to have this cool memory. And he was the most gracious man. Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a selfie. I was like, rock on.
They aren't always. I want to catch up on some. I mean, you've got a couple selfies I'm really jealous of here. This one, I mean, he's all right. National hero, athletic hero, whatever. Firefighter 727 says, and you get a selfie, and you get a selfie. Everyone, selfies for everybody.
I'm the Oprah of selfies.
And then the other thing I think is really interesting, since we're kind of doing like, I didn't intend for it to be this way, but we're doing a little bit of a career counseling session. Flight Chops says the best jobs you don't apply for, which I think is true.
It's word of mouth and it's relationships, particularly in aviation. Think about all the things that, have happened to you and for Chops, and it's someone making an introduction. It's certainly not, while I use LinkedIn, it's not a LinkedIn community, right? It's a relationship community, more so than what you have on what do you got in Canada? I think they call it the CV, and here we just call it your resume. It's different. So
right. Absolutely. I want to click through a couple more of these. Here's you at, looks like the Olympics with a pro. This is what work sort of looks like for me too. Although not live. but heavy things on people's backs and lots of sweat. And then here's a personal childhood hero of mine. You got to hang out with this guy, long black hair, kind of goofy, Mr. Weird Al.
Oh, he's a doll. This is my Comic-Con world coming into play. And for those of you who are watching at home, he is every bit the amazing, kind human being that you want him to be. And they're not all like that. So it is a joy when I get to see him, and he answers every question like it's the first time he's hearing it. At me as a moderator, I get out of the way pretty quickly and let the audience ask questions. Dude, he's awesome. I get so happy when I see him on a Comic-Con that I'm working. I'm just like, oh, yay. So he's a joy.
So here's the thing. We need to get him in an airplane.
Well, he's going to make a joke. He's going to say that people are going to mistake him for Kenny G, the pilot. He's like, he might as well. Two musicians. It's possible.
It is possible.
I want to go flying with Kenny G. Someone out there has to know. I think that'd be hilarious. His social media accounts are self-deprecating in the most entertaining way.
I would like to have him we could do like plane pool karaoke, but he could be in the back like playing I don't know, how do you pantomime a saxophone? Like that's what I'm trying to do right now. I played trombone. It was like this. But like
yes,
like,
that's
I don't
a bad
know.
idea in an airplane.
I don't know how you don't have a root. Yeah, I can't. It need to be like a C-130 for me to get away with it. So you were joking about selfies and with airplanes. I'm going to rapid fire some of these because I want people to get a sense of just like the true breadth. I mean, you've been at airshow after airshow after. I mean, you're sitting on a Canadian F-18 right here. Just like no big deal. That's just your normal life. Here's you live streaming the cockpit of a Navy Blue Angel F-18. Again, no big deal. It just seems you're just casual there up on the wing. I mean, and then this picture here, I think if I had to summarize what you said, this is like the on-camera part is only a small part of what you do. But like this, when people think of you, this photo of you live streaming with some super cool Top Gun dude kind of personifies what people see, right? I think there's this producer side of you that people maybe aren't seeing behind the scenes. But this is like when when we will talk about how we met in a minute, but like this is, I feel like, is like the quintessential like Steph doing her thing shot here.
That particular live shot, also for Wings Over Houston, but in a previous year, was with Tyler Davies, who goes by Feedbag, and we had worked it out, and it was a big deal for me to be able to climb up onto the jet during a live. You can just imagine, like, that's not something they normally do, and this was, after the fact, and it's fun to be able to show them, to flip the camera around, basically flip my phone screen around and be like, look at these comments coming in. And I'm a live junkie. I love the pressure. I love the fact that I have no idea what's going to happen. I love people complaining about the wind noise. I love all of it. All of it just invigorates me because it's very real and in the moment. And if I can bring someone in behind the scenes and show them the Blue Angels cockpit and show them how the stick is wrapped with tape and the spring, that they have a 40-pound spring that they fly against, and to be able to show people that in real time and have them go, what? I've never seen this before. Like that just, it makes me so happy, and it gets people excited about air shows, and it's just something different. Like, I just want to contribute something different to what we're used to.
I think the biggest thing that you do, and you did this for me, which we're going to talk about in a second, but the biggest thing you do is you're breaking that crowd line, right? Like that crowd line that most of us have to stand behind is there for our safety, but it's also has this sort of, it's got this sort of, it detaches us from what we're seeing right now. Obviously, when the big jet teams are getting hit in the chest with the sound and the experience of it, but I think what you're doing is bringing folks across that line in a really interesting way. people from all over the world are able to experience this and get that access, right? Like you're talking about the spring on the Blue Angel jets. Like I knew about it, right? It's basically like holding my daughter is how much pressure my 5-year-old, right? It's holding my daughter on the stick, basically, right? I've never seen that because I missed that live show, and I've never bothered to like look it up, right? So that's a really amazing thing that you're able to give people, is that behind the scenes access, like live in the moment. I think that's amazing.
People still, it's been a couple years now, and they still reach out to me because that's something they were curious about, and it's popped up in some chat room somewhere, and then I'll get a message on Instagram from someone who's like, I went looking for that content, and that's when I realized, that I was onto something. I bust the crowd line when it's safe to do so. I'm not standing out there behind the jets.
Oh, no.
When they,
no, you're there. You're there, like officially. You're not just like running out there.
Right. But it's a treat. Like I love what I do. It just brings me joy. Is that whiskey or water?
That was water, because I didn't want to have another coughing fit, because it's very embarrassing to be on the internet. Like, J.A. Bentley 9 says we should fly Al. I think they're talking about Weird Al in the in the chat. Let's make it happen. If you know Weird Al, I think I saw him at like the Waukesha County Fair once.
I run into him when Comic-Cons, much like air shows, are actually happening. I run into him once or twice a year, and I absolutely have for folks like the Thunderbirds and stuff like that, made connections as best I can with folks that they want. I think Weird Al would be a blast. Whether he would do it is a different story. I know that my buddy John, who played Napoleon Dynamite, he went flying with Viper Demo, or actually I should say he went flying with the base. So it was Shaw Air Force Base, where Viper Demo is based out of. And he had his bell rung pretty bad. He was like, Steph, that was brutal. And I was like, okay. And then I got my own taste of it a little bit later. And I realized that it is exactly as brutal as he thought it was. But there's opportunities, because those folks, and the reason why you're like, God, I wish I was a celebrity. I want an opportunity to do that. But they then take the message to all of their followers who maybe have never heard of an air show or the military or anything. And it puts it in front of them in a really good way. And that's why it works that way. I wish everyone could fly. Everyone on this chat, I wish everyone could experience it, because the amount of respect you gain for the pilots would blow you away.
Yeah, and funny you should mention being blown away. That feels like a good segue to how we met. I was looking through my phone. So last year, Osh 19, I had what I would call there's like my wedding, and like my daughter's being born, and then like somewhere below that, wherever is appropriate and my wife won't get mad, is this day that we had where we met. And I think you sent me just like random, like as far as I was concerned, it was a random text, and you were just like, hey, I got your number from so-and-so. I have this cool thing. Do you want to go do this cool thing? And I was like, is this real?
And you also thought it was going to be no big deal.
I thought I'm going to be honest. I thought it was going to be super boring. I was like, oh, cool. Like, I'm going to go look at some jets at Oshkosh. It's going to be like hot. But like, whatever. Like, whatever. I was totally like playing it down in my head that this would be like the most, it'd be cool, but I didn't think it'd be like, I was like, oh yeah, like maybe I'm gonna like ride in a paramotor this week, or like I'm gonna do like, and then like this happened, and I don't know if Chops is still in the chat. He ended up being there. We just had an insane day. I'm gonna play a clip just to give people, this is the other side of what you do, right? So there's this live streaming side of what you do, and then there's this other side, which is like facilitating this sort of safe, access and fun. Safety first, fun second. It was intense. Let's play it, and then we can talk about it. What button do I press? Here we go. I definitely got that in my mouth. Also, it was hot, which makes sense. Freedom dust. Steph, you're my new best friend.
Yay! I'm so glad. Did you have a nice time?
That was amazing.
Good, good.
Holy I'm like sitting here like laughing about it and like grinning ear to ear about it, like watching it. Guys in the chat, there's like a full episode of this that you can watch after we're done with the live stream tonight. Go check it out. It's this whole experience that Steph was able to kind of like magically make appear for me, but it kind of culminates in that moment of just getting like slammed in the face by freedom dust. God bless America. Holy crap.
So there was someone in the chat who picked up on the Firefighter 727 picked up on the chat that, yes, that was Loco in the jet. And so when I worked it out with Dojo with the F-35 and Loco with the F-22, Loco, because he's awesome, actually went ahead and gave you all of the hand signals from the Thunderbirds. So if you go back, so that's a little like Easter egg for you guys. If you go back and find that particular episode, and I don't know if you can link it in the chat or how you want to do it, but people love it. And the guys, Loco and Dojo, loved it. And I use it today as an example, even with the new F-35 team. I showed them an example so that when I come to them and I'm like, hey, can I bring someone over to watch you guys taxi out? And they're like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, this is what happens. Like, it's such a great video. And so what Loco's giving you as the Easter egg is all of the Thunderbirds hand signals that he could have memorized. And he was going through them one after another, solely because he knew you and Flight Chops were there to see it. So you got the dog and pony show as he taxied out. And then Dojo, he had to hit the gas a little bit because it was a hot day, which is why we got dusted, freedom dusted. So that's the backstory.
I mean, fine.
Fine.
I'll take it. Those dudes were, I mean, I didn't even really get to talk to them other than like kind of nervously coming and be like, hey, you guys are kind of cool. Like, oh, like, I mean, first of all,
it's all the guys with guns. That's what scared you off.
That was, yeah, I was afraid. There's a whole subplot we've been talking about that. Like, if you go to that area without prior approval, and we even had approval, and there was like a conversation. But
I was like, I told you, I said, do not record this. And you're like, yeah, no problem. Not a problem.
Like, there's like a line on the ground. And if you cross the line, they're like, no, we'll shoot you. And I was like, oh, like, okay.
That's not what they said. It's implied, but that's not what they said.
No, but I was kind of like, oh, like, he was like, no, like, literally don't cross that line. And I was like, oh, but like, and they're like, well, we don't want to hit the plane. but like, you know.
You can see it in his video, but it's red string. Like, it's not like, like, you really want to pay attention to that line. Like, you need to stay clear of that. So I told everybody, I'm like, don't get anywhere near it. When in doubt, 10 feet back.
No, and I also want to say just congratulations to you for being so trusting, because you had only known me for about 20 minutes before that.
It's easy to trust when A, you came with good recommendations. I do my homework, and B, there's like, again, a lot of security, heavily armed security. I was like, the trust is really not an issue. Like, I'm good, but let's not do the paperwork, right? Let's not make paperwork.
We did talk about that. I feel like I'm probably on a list now. And that's fine. It was worth it. So
it's an awesome episode.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing me back there, and Flight Chops was there. We were just kind of like, we were talking after the fact, how kind of like blown away by that experience. I did it again. Dad jokes.
Blown away.
Just blown away we were by the experience, because you don't have a sense. And I don't know how to communicate it. Like, there's just, it's like literally got me speechless. Like, the amount of like noise and like visceral vibration that is happening in your chest. And then you've got this team of like super highly trained, like best of the best pilots and crew, airmen, women. I think they still call them airmen, right? I'm the GA guy over here. So like they are like so like if you watch that opening of that little clip I played, like so precise and like everything is so buttoned up. And I remember kind of like walking up to the two pilots were doing their briefing and like watching them walk through the brief. And then I kind of like joked, I was like, oh, this is like going to be cool. And they're like, oh, it's going to be cool. like dead serious. And I was like, this is some Top Gun stuff over here. Like, this is like hardcore. Also, just a side note, those dudes are looking pretty good. They keep in pretty good shape. Made me feel pretty bad about just my body.
Well, welcome to life as a woman in the modern era of social media. I spent a lot of time going, man, I should not have had that piece of bread, but I did anyway. So there you go.
Are keeping it tight. They're keeping it tight.
You have to. It's so physically demanding. Having had the opportunity to fly in the back seat with Viper Demo, it's punishing. Like it is every bit as challenging as you would think, and then something. You think it's like standing next to it is one thing, and then sitting in the back seat is just like being in a blender.
Well,
let's go.
Hopefully I can make that happen someday in my YouTube career. I want to like have that painful experience. Funny you should mention being in the blender. I guess I would ask the chat, like, do you guys want to see a video of Steph riding? I'm like waiting for they're gonna be like, yes. Like Steph riding in the back of an F-16. Like, I mean, we could skip over that.
Or please also understand, like, it's the closest I've ever come to being sick as a dog.
I vomit in airplanes all the time, so there's no way I survive it. Okay, now that I asked, no one is saying they want to see it in the chat. But I'm gonna
skip it.
No, let's skip it. Yeah, let's skip it. It's boring. It's boring.
No, when I got the invitation to fly, what I wanted to do was have an opportunity to show people from like a civilian perspective what it's like to fly in the back seat. So we came up with this idea. Thank you, Gary. Gary giving it a yes. As far as I'm concerned, that's 100% approval rating. So we should roll with it.
I apologize. I had moved to my chat and I didn't see everyone saying yes. Everyone's been saying yes. It was me on my end, technical error. You guys are awesome. Sorry, I was being mean. Sorry, Steph, continue.
No, so it was when we came up with this idea to take the flight and turn it into a Dissecting the Demo series because there are aspects to the flying that people on the ground don't hear in the narration and don't appreciate. And so I thought, well, here's Toro, who I flew with, the current Viper Demo pilot, who is literally not out of breath, who sounds like he's having like a Tuesday conversation, like, hey, I think I might go get a cup of coffee. I don't know. I got a call here in a couple hours. Maybe I'll sit this one out and I'll go after. That's what he sounds like when he's talking through. And I am like a sandbag in the back, holding on for dear life. I had G-Zels where the G-suit constricts you and your blood pools up in areas and creates what effectively looks like a hickey from the compression and your blood vessels bursting from the strain. I was covered in G-Zels, covered in bruises, but I managed to not pass out. I'm in the 9G club, and I managed to hang on for the whole thing. And I gained this level of respect for what United States Air Force pilots do, particularly in high performance airplanes like a fast jet, a fighter jet like an F-16, that remains unmatched. I've flown in jets before at the risk of sounding like, oh, she's going to name drop. Here we go. I've flown in jets before, and by far the F-16 was the most violent. Yeah, it was the most violent experience I've ever been through in an aircraft ever. And he was taking it easy on me. Had I flown with Rain, the demo pilot from the year before, he would have put me right to sleep and not cared anything about it. Toro was at least being nice.
It doesn't totally look like. Let's just show the video. But I want to say, reinforcing you said, 782 Papa says aircraft have gone way past where biology doesn't keep up.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
that's why you have That's why you have speed jeans. That's why you wear a G-suit that compresses you to help you, to give you a fighting chance to stick around at 9G. Because if you didn't have it, I remember in the briefing, they were like, don't breathe out. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, before the G comes on, you want to take a breath and then you do this G-strain maneuver to prevent G-lock, gravity-induced loss of consciousness. And I was like, well, why don't you want to breathe out? They're like, oh, because at 9G, your chest won't let you breathe back in. I was like, I spent way too much time paranoid about that. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I can't take a breath. So it was awesome. Awesome to feel that. I've never thought I'd be so excited to be so bruised.
All right.
That's a quote.
Okay. With that intro, let me play the video you sent me, and then people can kind of see what you're talking about here.
Conscious, I'm unconscious, hey.
You look remarkably calm.
I am not. That is a lie. I am holding my breath, panting like a dog left in a hot car. Like it is. So the seat in the F-16 reclines. I think it's by 30 degrees to help aid in being able to withstand the rapid onset of G, among other things. That's an aircraft that is very fast, wants to go fast, and is maneuverable. And that combination creates a lot of stresses on the body. And I remember someone telling me, and I've seen the video, don't put your head out too far, because if you get caught, it's going to slam down forward and you won't be able to pick it back up under the weight. And so I kept my head in the back, which is why the whole ride I look like this. But I also have my hands up on there's handlebars that you can hold on to. And at one point I let go about 4 Gs too early. And the hand came flying down and got stuck on my body and was pressing against my rib cage. And I couldn't move it. And I could feel the parachute buckle and the harness digging in. And I looked like I'd been hit by a truck in my arm just from that brief, whatever it was, 5 seconds or not even that much of the remaining G, where like it, boy, I wish I could let you guys experience this, because it would blow you away. And these guys are just like, yeah, that was like the easiest thing we're going to do today. I'm like, what? Okay.
Doing the 9G pull. And actually, while you were chatting about that, there's a video that you sent me called Dissecting the Demo. It's part of a series of videos. And I'll play it again while we keep talking about it. Where you do the minimum radius turn that you were just talking about, the full 9G pull. And I got to say, people in the chat are pretty impressed. 9Gs, Ryan Krueger said, that's amazing. Gary says, much respect for not passing out. I think I'd be out like a light. Yeah, dude. Yeah. The most Gs I've ever pulled is 4. And then I puked all over the plane, and I kept it in the bag. There's a video about that on my channel too. So, like, I hope someday to get this opportunity and do this, but I'm also terrified that I'm going to really embarrass myself. So here, if you guys look at next to Steph here, they're entering the minimum turn, and boom, they're up to 8.5, like 9 Gs right here, and you are like hanging on, but you're definitely still conscious, and it's also like Vape City back there. Oh,
it was 94 degrees that day and like 97% humidity. And even Toro was like, ooh, that took it out of me. But he just said it like it was no big deal. Meanwhile, it took me 20 minutes to get out of the jet. And I have, I've got I have some understanding of what it takes. And I was like, every part of my inner ear is still about 20 miles that way. So we're going to wait for it to catch up before I try to get out of this plane. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't get sick. And someone was joking that I was terrified. I promise you I wasn't. That is one thing I was not. I wasn't scared, but I was hanging on for dear life. I was sweaty. I was hot. I was trying not to pass out. I didn't know if I was I've never been sick, so I didn't think I was going to puke. But the last thing you want to do is get cocky, because that's when it's going to happen, and you deserved it. So terrified? Definitely not. I mean, I'm in the hands of one of the best trained fighter pilots out there in America. So I was in good hands and had no fears. But I was just like What I was holding on for dear life. So
I think that, and that was my issue when I flew. I did air combat like training class, and I ate like a huge breakfast. So
no.
It was like eggs, scrambled eggs, the whole stuff coming up.
Oh.
Marty asks, is a ride like that as enjoyable as we all hope? I think I would be so worried the whole time. I'm not sure as much I'd appreciate it as much as I'd hope.
You know what happens is your brain enters that weird adrenaline phase, which they say happens in, in life when something startles you and you have that flight or fight. So I've learned to focus and make my brain slow down to take in the moment. So I have very visceral memories where I can smell things and hear things that I can hear Bitch and Betty. They call her Bitch and Betty, who's telling you to pull up. And I can hear the alert tones, and I still have the gloves. They gave me the gloves because they can't reuse them, and they still smell like the jet fuel. And so I have all my memories are solid. And I think should you ever have the good fortune in your life to do it, the one thing I would tell anyone is take the time to force yourself to remember, because it's going to go so fast and your heart's going to race and your adrenaline's going to spike. And then before you know it, it's time to land. And then you, sir, are going to puke everywhere. Let's just be, that's just going to happen.
I definitely got considerably more nauseous. I puked, felt okay. And then I got way more nauseous when we landed. It's this is never ending. Okay. So now the gauntlet. So a couple of things I want to reference in the chat. Maxim DS is saying F-16 versus Gripen E. Gripen is great. Whatever, dude. I don't know. I don't want to get into that.
Hey, guess what? It's the one you got to fly in, so we know which team I'm on right now.
Boom! Sick burn. Gary Smith says, "Holy jeez, yeah, man." And then let's see. There's some agreement from your friends. I think they're your Air Force friends.
They are. And so Becky got to do what they call a fan flight, a familiarization flight, and she said that. And Becky, she may be. I'm going to say it. But she got sick immediately and stayed sick. And so
she says oatmeal for breakfast.
Yeah, so she's got some experience there. And Jen Bentley's referring to the dedication pass. What is the most, miserable, but in an awesome way, awesomely miserable part that's challenging is all the rejoins. So Toro, he flies the maneuver so everyone can see it and appreciate it at the air show. And it's all designed with a massive amount of safety, in mind. And then he's got to go out into some random nowhere and turn himself around and get back in front of the crowd. So that's when the 9Gs come. It doesn't come in front of the crowd. It comes when he's trying to hustle his butt back in front of everybody watching. And so one of the dissecting the demos that we're going to do, and especially now I feel like we've got all the time to turn that content because there's still more that we haven't done yet with it, is called the rejoin episode, where it's just me getting hammered, what is it, the Marshawn Lynch video where it's over and over and over. That's what the rejoin is like. I get smacked into the brick wall of G's over and over and over again. It's the rejoins that are the most brutal for sure.
You're really selling it, but I want it so badly. I just feel
I'm blessed. Really.
The other thing I want to say, Gauntlet Throne, I'm just going to say Matt at GSXR1K. Matt. Hey, Matt. He's a local Milwaukee guy. He says, Smarter Every Day, another YouTube channel, posted a fighter jet ride yesterday. He tapped out and didn't do the 9G pull. So, boom. You should go to his channel and be like, ha, I don't know. Be as combative as you want. That's
folks
awesome.
Get, there's a biology issue, I think. So you may not know this, but for fighter pilots who go through training and they meet all of the other stringent requirements to fly, some of them just naturally get airsick. And so in some cases, they basically beat it out of you through repetition. They put you in the centrifuge and they spin you and you go through it over and over again until you develop a tolerance for it. So even if you don't innately have that, if you're, I get sick at 4Gs, Ryan, or if you are if you can meet the other requirements to do the job, there are ways to get you trained into it. But this guy, like myself, we don't have any muscle memory for that. We've never had any sort of training. So when it's bad, it's bad. And I've heard from people who've gotten sick Becky's in the chat right now actually talking about her experience. She said it was awesome, but there are people who the split second they get sick, all they want to do is be done. And if you're doing BFM, basic fighting maneuvers, if that's what you're flying versus like a media ride, if it's a media ride, they're going to take it easy on you and be like, straight and level. We're just going to RTB. We're going to return to base. Everybody's happy. Puke in the bag. But if you're out there,
don't puke on the panel. For the love of God, don't puke on the panel.
Some guy, when I flew with the Blue Angels, the guy before me was a radio guy, and he barfed all over the seat, and they had to like bring in this crazy crane and like pull it out and clean all the barf up. And I was like late for the flight by like 2 hours, and I'm so glad they took me up anyway. This was years ago. And I'll never forget, I got in there and the smell, like you could, even with all the cleaning, it was like, oh, it's going to make me sick as it is. But some folks, when they hit it, they just don't, it's not for them. Like your inner ear is like, no, thanks, not having this.
Just briefly, my experience was that we were out over the Pacific Ocean and I started vomiting while we were upside down, which is also like really bad. And kept it in the bag. Like there's a video on the channel, guys, you can search for it if you want to get a good laugh after this. But like my pilot was an F-18 squadron commander, and so while I stopped pulling in the loop maneuver we're doing, like a high yo-yo, and the plane's, because I unloaded the plane, is starting to stall and run out of airspeed. So all these alarms are going off, and he's like simultaneously getting the aircraft under positive control and reaching around. I gotta do this so people can see. Like he reaches around and like taps the mic out of the way, because I'm just like going for it. So I was like, oh, like, okay, we're the best of the best. If he could do that, you're right. It is the worst possible place to be sick. But you still want, like, I still want it. Like,
absolutely. I asked Toro when I flew with him, I said, hey, are you a sympathy puker? Because some of the guys, and they're few and far between, and usually not like the demo guys that are used to flying media, but in some cases you get a guy who like, or a woman, but if you've got a puker in the back seat, just the sound of you vomiting is going to set the pilot off. So they're like, kill your mic. And here's how you do it if you're going to throw up. And so I remember asking before the flight, I'm like, are you a sympathy puker? And he's like, he's so calm and collected. He's like, no. I was like, cool, because it could happen. so yeah, it's a sympathy puking's a thing, by the way, which is why I don't think I'm going to go watch your video. No offense. I'll watch it. No,
that's fine. I mean, you don't have, it's embarrassing, but just chat, a lot of respect for the ride. And I actually want to show another video that you sent, because we've talked, and I don't think we have time for it tonight. You and I have talked a lot about your family and how one of the things that you're really excited to do is to use your experiences as a way to inspire your daughter. And you gave her a little shout out on that flight, and I want to play that for everybody because it's just, as a dad, it really excited me too. So here's kind of, I don't know where you are in the flight, but this was kind of your reaction to your daughter.
Al, Mama loves you. I know that someday you want to fly fighters in the United States Air Force, and your mom gets to say that she got to take a flight in an F-16. Mama loves you.
Your mom killed it in the F-16L.
Thanks.
I love that. Your mom killed it in the F-16L, like the pilot up front. Like, yeah. And I think the other thing that's so amazing about it is, as a civilian, like, understanding like how much effort, even just like I'm sorry, we could talk about this experience of yours for another whole hour if we're not careful. But anyway, it's just like there's so much in that, but mostly like your daughter, like she wants, like she's seen this and she wants to go for it.
She wants to fly now. She has flown with friends of mine who have aerobatic planes, and she's a G monster. You put her in the back seat. There are parachutes that are built for, she's basically right now like an extra small woman. So they make parachutes for her. She does these flights on occasion and you can't get her out of the airplane. I'm like, that's my kid. Like, I have this sense of pride and excitement that she genuinely loves something. My goal is not to force her into it. If she changes her mind or if she decides she doesn't like it, then the experience was great while it lasted. But right now she's super enthusiastic about it. She, was crushed that the Arlington fly-in wasn't happening. She loves general aviation. Like, what airplane can I get in, Mom? Like, who who's taking me flying? If anything, she doesn't understand that, like, you don't get to just go, like, this is special, kid. And she's like, yeah, but he'll fly me. I'm like, okay, hold on. So and I love that I can help her be a touch point for that, because for most people, I'm unique. I came into it as an adult. The majority of folks have some connection to it as a kid that gets them into aviation. So I get to create that for her, and I like that.
I think I've got a video here we can watch while this is you were telling this story about, this is a flight. Was this her first flight? This is you, right? We're seeing you in a long easy on your way, but then in a minute the video cuts to her with you in formation with her. Can you tell us?
Yeah, we flew to the Arlington. Sure, we flew to Arlington together in formation. So I flew in Kyle Fowler's long easy. So he's with Go Easy Aerobatics. And then that is Eric O'Connor. He's a former CF-18 demo pilot, and that's his Harmon rocket. And he's got 8,000 hours. He's flown everything. And so I trust him to fly my daughter. The older I've gotten, the more picky I am about who I fly with, and in particular, who my daughter flies with. And my husband and I, we know and we trust that airplane, and we trust him. And so to have mommy daughter like fly together to the fly-in with two super accomplished pilots, and then to have my husband, who wanted nothing to do with the flying, he was like, I will drive the camper. I will see you there. And so he drove the camper, and I didn't know fly-ins were cool. I'm late to the fly-in game, and now I'm sold. I'm like, is this what they're all like? Like, how many more of these can I fit into my calendar? Because they were like, it was such a great community grassroots event. I learned so much more about general aviation because I do a lot in the military space. So I learned and got to see and touch and feel all these airplanes. I work with Osh. So that is the, EAA AirVenture is the general aviation mecca, but I don't get a lot of time to go on a personal tour and learn things. Like, I have a mission to do that takes me from A, B, C, D throughout the day. And this was a chance just to go and hang out, have a drink, attend a party, look and talk to some pilots, see some cool planes, and like absolutely sold on the flying experience. It was awesome.
I love that your daughter is so excited about it. We'll have to talk offline from this. You can give me all the parenting tips. My daughter, every time she sees any plane in the sky, she'll be like, Daddy, is that your plane? I'm like, well, no, I don't own that. I don't own all the planes yet, but she wants to go, but she's only 5. So my concern is that she's not even going to experience it, right? To her, it's going to be like, I'm in an uncomfortable chair for my size, and I can't see anything, and it's loud, and it feels funny, right? Like, she's just small in stature. So I don't want to have a bad experience for her as her first time. So I'm just like, wait, she's begging for it now. Like, I was like, when she asks, I'll take her. And then I'm like, maybe not yet. Because I want it to be perfect, right? Like, you had this ability to put up with a really experienced pilot in like a pretty dope plane for your first ride.
Oh, it's dope. It's so awesome. I love, like, anytime I can go flying in the backseat of that makes me happy. It is fun. It's zippy. It's fast. It's got tons of horsepower. Oh my gosh. Like, what I wouldn't do to have the experience to be able to fly something like that. I would love it.
So we only have a few more minutes, but I could tell that you are like the master of broadcast, because you've just segued me again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
To the final topic I wanted to talk about tonight really quickly before we run out of time. And that's that you are a student pilot now.
Forever.
Apparently.
Thanks, COVID-19. Jerk.
Oh, wait, real quick before we get there. Firefighter 727 says, I loaded up my 10-month-old and flew her halfway across the country. She slept for 17 of the 21 hours. Yeah.
That's classic.
Classic.
That is so classic. You take someone up and you're like, wait, this is amazing. No, they're just happy to take a nap.
10-month-old.
The long easy is surprisingly comfortable. I was in the back seat and you settle into it, and I was like, I told Kyle, I was like, I'm going to take a nap if I don't, like, I'm in God's country. I'm like, I got to wake up, like, stay with you, because it's a comfortable ride, surprisingly, for such a crazy looking small airplane.
Yeah, I mean, they look like spaceships, right?
Yeah, they do.
So you're a student pilot, and a little bit ago, I saw you in a video. You sent me a clip from it. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to, after a little bit of audio in the front, you and I can talk over the top of it. We're about to, if it weren't for COVID-19, you're about to venture into kind of crazy, another, like, you've had a lot, dude, you do so many amazing things. Like this, your learning experience would have been incredible, and it will be once this is all over.
Yeah.
Let me play this, and then we can talk over after kind of the first little cockpit bit.
Okay. Here we go.
All right.
Let's just see if I can.
A little bit of foot. I'm doing the foot.
Yeah, you got the foot.
All right, nose down a tiny bit. Right there.
It feels like I'm falling when I do that turn.
Up a little bit. Oh, now you are. All right, I'm gonna pull this up here.
Yeah, no worries.
So as we kind of watch the rest of this here, you got to fly in an RV-12, and I have a lot of questions.
It's such a cool airplane.
I wanted to ask you about that, Steph. So, like, we just went from showing a video of you riding in the back of, like, American Freedom 5000.
Yeah, yes.
And, like, what's an RV-12 feel like?
It's so fun. I made, so, okay, guys, please, I hope you have a sense for who I am, because I'm going to say something that you can give me grief about, because it sounds unusually, like, almost arrogant, and I don't mean it that way, but I don't know how else to say it. I have had, because of what I do for a job, the experience to fly over and over again in aerobatic airplanes. So when I flew in the RV-12 and they told me to turn, I turned the way I'm used to turning, which is aggressively. That is not what you were supposed to do in a general aviation airplane. And so it became a joke, and it was funny. But I learned a lot, and I was very early on in my sort of learning experience. And now, if anything, I have this tremendous respect and rightful, fear is maybe too strong of a word, but I'm definitely always conscious of, angle of attack and what's going to happen if this stalls, and which is a great place to be. I think that's what makes you a safe pilot, is constantly aware of what your potential risk is. Unfortunately for me, I have only just done the sort of book study. I didn't even get to take the test when all of this happened. Right now, I should be 10 days into my intensive flying program. EAA AirVenture has a Sport Pilot Academy, which is a 3.5-week intensive ground to pilot program. You have to take the written pilot first, and it's for your Sport Pilot certificate. And I was so excited because we'd shot this video. I'd gone out to Vans. I'd flown in the RV-12. I love that airplane. I love it. Like, it's the planes that EAA AirVenture has that they will train their pilots on, and hopefully myself in the future, thanks COVID, but first world problem, I get it. But I was definitely disappointed because I wanted to join the club. I was finally, after a lifetime of trying to get there, I had finally done it, and then this happened. And I had a pity party for myself on May 9th, the day I was supposed to start flying. And then I said, you know what? Time to double down and continue and think of Jen and to fly. The day that I solo, guys, someone asked me if I'd soloed. No, I haven't. But the day that I solo, this is coming with me. And it's a big, thick book. So if I have to do a new weight and balance equation to make it work, guess what? I'm a student pilot and I can figure it out. So, jokes
awesome.
aside, my goal is to get there. And I'm more driven than ever because now I'm doing it not just for myself. I'm doing it for someone else in my mind. So wish me luck. I'm happy to have the book smart understanding, albeit rudimentary, of what goes on when you fly general aviation. It's fun to look up the METARs, and it's fun to to understand the lingo, and I am enjoying that even if I'm not yet flying myself. So
I'm excited for you to get there, and I hope that you will consider once you've got it all figured out. Like, I want to be the first to volunteer to be on your passenger list. I'm sure there are a lot of people who you have to take up, but I would love to.
That's trust, man. I appreciate that you would be comfortable doing that, because I have this big discussion with myself. Like, when do I trust myself to fly other people? But you know what you're doing, so that I would welcome that, and I love that you want to be the first. That's awesome.
Well, I don't know about the first. I mean, your family probably wants to be the first. Let's work out some of the kinks, Steph. No,
we're not. You know what? No, but look, really quick, and I realize we've run out of time, but I've told my daughter, because she wants to fly with me more than anything, and I'm like, sweetheart, that's not how it's going to go. Like, I am not comfortable flying you until I have many, many more hours, and it's going to be a really long time. But I will have you fly with people who are super experienced, and maybe someday, if you want to get your pilot's license and you get your experience, then we can fly together as a team. I just can't. I can't I can't do that. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I got an open seat. Like, who wants to go? Who knows what they're doing? Let's go have some fun. Because that RV-12, man, that Vans aircraft is super fun.
So a lot of love for Vans in the chat. And then also Connie says, you've got this fellow lady pilot. Marty, who's been in the channel a bit, but also as a CFI, says, great attitude. You'll make a great pilot. I totally agree.
Thank you.
Dan is rooting for you. Flight Shop says he's on the passenger list as well.
I trust that. He knows what he's doing. I'm down for that.
Yeah, he's got a lot of varied experience. And he also says, good call on waiting to fly with your kid. And then if you come to Milwaukee, oh, this is funny. Firefighter 727 says, I'll fly with anyone any day as long as I have my own controls. So he only he only sort of trusts you.
Fair.
No, I think you're gonna be great, and I'm bummed for you that all the COVID stuff kind of got in the way, but I think that it's just gonna make the victory sweeter. We can all kind of, right. I know certain people are flying, some can't. It depends on the state you're in and all this other stuff, your personal choices. I think once we, as a country, get through this, and as aviators, we have it's just going to make the victory much sweeter. And I hope it's that way for you too. And I like I said, I will totally ride with you. If you trust me to get within 10 feet of an F-35, I can trust you to fly us somewhere. We'll go grab a burger or something.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
Real quick, guys, before we wrap up, anyone else has any other questions for Steph? I know we're a little over on time, but this has been awesome. I said it in the video, Steph, but new best friend, getting to know you has been really great. Getting to see your side, one of my favorite parts about getting to know you is that I've got this side of the general aviation side, the Cessna side of aviation, and your experience has been this other very intense and military focused, air show focused thing. And so for us to join forces and talk, all our conversations are so epic because we're both learning from each other a lot. And so I just want to thank you again for being here tonight, but also for sharing your side of the knowledge with me, someone who's more putting around in the sky, respecting what I see when I see a jet fly by, but not having the true understanding that you do. So thanks. Sorry, that was kind of a rant, but thank you.
I love the rant. And I'll tell you, I've been watching the chat. You guys have been great because as you can even tell during this, I'm looking down, and it's because I'm looking on my phone to see what you guys are saying, so I can interact with you. And I just, everyone's been incredibly kind and super awesome. And it's been fun to be able to bring you a little bit of that experience. And, also thank you. I didn't do my hair for you guys tonight. Nobody commented on it. And I think that's the first time ever. And thank you for being awesome about my not done hair. I appreciate you guys.
Well, let's be real. I mean, I haven't had a haircut in 3 months. So look at this.
What are we going to do?
Oh, we're making it. A couple other little messages before we sign off. Flight Shop says, what's the worst is when a pilot takes you for a ride in a type you've never flown before and gives you the seat with more controls than they have. That's trust. I think he's referencing the long EZ flight he had at AirVenture. Krueger, Ryan...
Kyle, the airplane I was in.
Yeah, but he was in the front and Kyle was in the back. Krueger says, COVID messed up my IFR rating, but I hear you on the bummed part, but just stick with it. And Gary, dude, you rock. We warmly welcome you to the GA family. Yeah, no, you're already part of this family, Steph, but it's going to be excited. You're going to have that little extra pin, badge on your sleeve or whatever. Now everyone's talking about how they want us to keep talking because otherwise they've got to go do dumb things. Sorry, Steph's got places to be. She's got things to do.
I haven't made dinner for the family yet. My husband took my daughter for a bike ride, and I don't know what he's done with her, but she has not been down here at all. So either he's hogtied her somewhere. They're probably out back playing, or doing something, but he took her out of the house because otherwise she does that thing where she creeps in. She's like, Mom, and you'll see me go, let Mom work. So that's awesome. I got to go feed the family.
Yeah, you got to go feed your family. And here in Central Time, I got to go to bed. So guys, so everyone, thank you so much for watching again tonight. Kind of a really special SuperAero live with my good friend Steph tonight. Again, like all the dumb YouTube and podcast and things, like subscribe, share, like. The biggest thing you can do to help the channel is just make sure other people know about it. I love doing this, talking to my friends every week, especially right now during COVID. It's great to get some hangar flying and to keep that community going. So definitely do all those things for me. That would be dope. Steph, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time on a Wednesday night to chat with me. I can't wait till we get to see each other again after all of this. And you'll have a new pair of wings, and we're gonna go flying.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate everyone in the chat, and we will see you. We'll see you next time.